Have you ever dreamed of owning a campground? I'm Patti Hunt, and you're listening to the RV Life Podcast. What is one thing you wish everyone knew before they started thinking about starting a campground?
The most important thing is it probably costs more than you expect. All the infrastructure and the utilities that you don't see underground on the beautiful RV sites cost a ton of money. So pre-planning and being ready for that from the beginning is always really, really helpful.
And today we are going to cover all things campground ownership, from breaking ground to thinking about that time where you might be looking to sell. If you're actually considering being a campground owner or you're just curious, this episode will have real stories, big lessons, great tips. You don't want to miss this. Now, a little bit about me. 4 years ago, my husband, Dan, decided it'd be a great idea to sell everything we own and get in an RV full time. The funniest part of this was I had only been in an RV for 7 nights prior to this suggestion. So at first I thought he was crazy. And then I got to admit, only after about 2 months, I said, what the heck? And I jumped in with both feet. We were on the road for over 3 years full time. And I have to say, it was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. Now, a year ago, life changed for us because Dan became ill and is now in a nursing home. So I had to reinvent myself, and that meant a solo podcaster and a solo traveler. But I am not going to miss out on the campground experience that I love so much. Now I just go by car or plane. I've stayed in cabins, I've stayed in yurts, I've stayed in retro RVs. And this year, my plan is to stay in a beautiful tiny home. We'll talk more about that. The RV Life Podcast was created to educate, entertain, and explore the RV lifestyle with the mission to inspire you to live life to the fullest. Talking about incredible campgrounds, Open Road Resorts has 6 incredible parks in Idaho, Nebraska, New Mexico, 2 in Texas, and their newest park is AB Camping and RV Park in Cheyenne, Wyoming. They are open and ready to take bookings, and they are planning to upgrade and make expansions. All 6 of these parks are highly favored by you, the RVer. If you go to campgrounds.rvlife.com, you could see what your fellow RVers are saying about these 6 incredible parks and why they are highly favored parks. Also, check them out on openroadresorts.com. Now, for my listeners, this episode is very different. I have 6 people. There's 6 of us on this episode, 7 if you count my producer, and we are coming in from 6 different locations. So this is going to be a very different podcast episode, but we're going to journey down this road of RV campground ownership. And I want to start by introducing you to my guest. And I'm going to start with Amie Mersmann, president of Mersmann Consulting Group, MCG for short, and she has about 27 years of professional experience, including over 19 years of experience in planning, development, and management for the outdoor hospitality industry. Amie specializes in strategic business planning, market analysis, economic modeling, financial analysis, marketing and branding, resort and facility operations, and event management. She was introduced to the industry by working directly for a high-end RV resort as a marketing and sales director, and then transitioned into consulting, providing services to clients in 38 U.S. states and internationally. Welcome, Amie, to the RV Life Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. Tell my listeners, why the campground industry?
Well, it sort of happened by life. My husband moved me to the middle of nowhere, East Texas. And I thought, what in the world am I going to do? And I applied for the position at Mill Creek Ranch in Canton, Texas. And the general manager happened to be Bud Searles. I consider him a legend in the industry. He worked for many national and state parks and just a visionary. And so it was just a true learning experience and a joy to work with him. He passed away about 5 years ago. So, the team stuck together and I've just been doing it since. And I can't imagine a life, without this industry. So I love what I do.
And that I think is so important, really, truly loving what you do. And I felt that when we talked several times, we had conversations. And we're going to hear more from you for sure. Let's introduce Chase Becker. He is the co-founder and co-president of Open Road Resorts. Chase has many years of experience at several hedge funds, including groups covering a wide array of companies in the RV, power sports, gaming, lodging, leisure, and restaurant industries. Chase was previously vice president in the equity research department, and Chase was a native of Scottsdale, Arizona, but now lives in Dallas, Texas with his wife and 2 daughters. His business partner, who could not be with us today, Jim Armstrong, is also co-founder and co-president of Open Road Resorts. Chase, welcome to the RV Life podcast.
Thanks for having me, Patti. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is great having you. We have been connected for well over 2 years, and it is awesome to have you on. Now, if my listeners caught on, Open Road Resorts was mentioned in the beginning of the podcast with their 6 highly favored parks. But Chase, both you and Jim were in the finance world. What were those first conversations, the 2 of you? What are those first conversations where you think campground ownership is a good idea?
It's a good question. We always joke that one of us was going to have a midlife crisis first, and I was the first one to have it. So, no, we were fortunate to get exposure to the RV space in our previous jobs where we invested in the public companies like Camping World and Thor and Lippard. So we had an appreciation of why people were buying RVs, but I was looking to do something different after a number of years, and ultimately never had looked at it from the real estate side, and kind of went down the rabbit hole and thought it was fascinating and have learned a lot, and it's been a great adventure so far. So a lot to learn still. Interested to hear what everybody else has to say and learn from others.
That sounds great. And I know we're also going to learn from you. I have had the pleasure of being at one of your campgrounds, so I know firsthand the kind of commitment, the kind of properties that you look to create. We're going to talk more about that. Okay, Wes Henderson is the CEO of Talona Ridge RV Resort in East Ellijay, Georgia, a premier RV destination he designed, built, and has managed for the past 3 years with his father and brother. With a bachelor's degree in international business and economics, Wes brings over a decade of experience in multifamily and commercial real estate gained through his involvement in his family's business. He also spent 3 years as a teacher, further shaping his leadership and communication skills. I could totally relate to that, having been a teacher. Wes is passionate about bringing ambitious projects to life from the ground up. He continues a strong foundation in research with a keen eye for agricultural design and thrives on assembling the right teams and investing in people to turn vision into reality. His work at Talona Ridge reflects his commitment to quality, innovation, and community, and he is married to his lovely wife, Abigail. Welcome to the RV Life podcast, Wes.
Thank you for having me.
So background in commercial real estate. Why did you built this campground? We've talked many times, literally from the ground up. Why campground ownership?
We kind of got sucked into it by accident, if you will. We had actually bought land across the street from where Talona Ridge sits. And we had heard that someone was going to do a campground on this piece of property. And I actually thought it was going to hurt our value of what our plans were from across the street. So I can't stress the amount of no knowledge and no information that we dove ourselves into this industry. It's been a wild but an amazingly fun ride. And so when I first heard the word luxury RV resort, I laughed at that. I was like, there's no such thing as a luxury RV resort. And then I Googled it that night and I went, oh, I stand corrected. There absolutely is such thing as a luxury RV resort. And the more we studied this land that we purchased, the more it just screamed this needed to be outdoor hospitality, even though we had never done anything hospitality related in our lives. So that's how we got into it.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of learning as you went along, and I can't wait for you to share all the ups and downs and I'm sure there were ups and downs with my listeners. Okay, Sonya, Zacker, and Maurice Gilmore are the proud co-owners and operators of Clayton Park RV Escape, a seasonal lakeside RV park nestled along Lake Henry in the Pocono Mountains of northeastern Pennsylvania. And just before I got on the call, because I am outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, I found out you are a 2-hour drive from me. So we are neighbors, and I am going to come see you guys.
Oh, good.
Together, they blend a shared passion for nature, community, and hospitality into every corner of the park. Sonya holds a bachelor's degree in computer information systems with a minor in business and spent over a decade as an auditor and technical writer. She also studied fine art at Keystone College and brings creative energy to the park. And her greatest inspiration were her parents. Maurice earned his bachelor's degree in environmental science and built a long career as a quality safety and environmental professional, primarily at nuclear facilities across the U.S. Well, that aligns with campgrounds. His strong background in environmental stewardship aligns naturally with the couple's commitment to maintaining a peaceful and scenic park environment. Together, Sonya and Maurice strive to create a welcoming, family-friendly escape where tradition, tranquility, and the beauty of outdoors come together. Welcome, Sonya and Maurice, to the RV Life Podcast.
Thank you so much. We're so glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Please share with my listeners your story. What was the conversation? And this was 19 years ago that you started this campground. What was the conversation? How did that start?
It was like raising a child, 19 years old. And it has been a lot of learning. And it really is I guess now it's off to college. So we did not expect to do this. This was not part of our plan. We actually were working overseas, and we got evacuated from a place called Wake Island, if anybody knows where that's at. And it was supposed to be temporary, but we came back and stayed with my parents because our house was rented out. And I found out they were in some trouble, and we said, how can we help? So here we are all these years later, and the park has undergone a lot of changes, but it has really good bones. And we thought it was worthwhile to save it. I knew it had been in my family for a long time, but I didn't know it was in my family, the property itself, for 160 years.
Wow.
So I'm kind of the bearer of the torch now. So, but it wasn't always a campground, but it started as a farm, but eventually my ancestors started renting boats, and here we are today with an RV park. And
Wow.
he just is along for the ride, and
Oh, there you go.
he does a really good job of supporting me.
And I cannot wait to hear more about this, for you to share with my listeners this journey, 19 years at this campground. We are going to hear more about that. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you all for sharing your stories. I'd love for my listeners to hear about the journey and how it started. And everybody's got a cool story. So now my listeners are curious or thinking about starting a campground. And I'm going to start with you, Amie. This is really tell us a little bit more about your business. You and I have had a number of incredible conversations. I have asked you several times of what your business side of it does. And there's a lot to it that I couldn't even keep track of. So give my guests an overview of what you do to help people start a campground, even, going through the process of, does it even make sense?
Our company specializes in outdoor hospitality, and our services range from land selection. So, we can help clients decide if a property is suitable or not. If they have the property, we can conduct a suitability analysis. We'll let them know, yes, no, here's why. Once property is selected, we offer feasibility studies. So that design component coupled with the business plan that's utilized for loans or investors or, anything needed, future planning. From there, we offer consulting through regulatory permitting and construction. We offer startup marketing and operations services. So just the minute the shovel hits the ground, we're in marketing and operations, getting everyone ready to open. So after grand opening, we can hand you the key and then be available as needed for consulting services. And that applies to, we've got a group of clients, looking to acquire RV parks and resorts. So, it's similar process. We help them with the due diligence, and then it kind of goes into that startup, analyzing, the current situation and operations and staffing and marketing, and then transitioning to the new ownership. And then expansion as well. Clients will come to us. I've got actually in Georgia this weekend, we're going to go visit a really beautiful glamping site, looking to expand. So, we'll evaluate the property and work with the client to get them where they need to be. But yeah, a wide range of services, but a lot of fun.
Wow. Yes. And there's, as somebody already said, there's so much more to it than we even realize, certainly than I even realize. I know for me, owning a campground is probably not what I want to do, but I never say never anymore. So who knows? But each of you on the call, so Wes, Chase, Sonya, Maurice, you kind of had a very different start. So I want each of you to kind of chime in. So for you, Chase, why did you decide to acquire campgrounds that already existed? And is there any thoughts of building your own from the ground up? Maybe you're not ready to share that. I don't know.
Coming from a finance background, I think, knowing what you don't know is really important. And frankly, when I first started, I really didn't know anything about the operational side, nor did I know anything about the development side. I'm interested to hear what Wes has to say, just because we've actually never built anything from scratch. Our model has been to go in and acquire existing campgrounds and good locations that maybe we can spruce up and improve operations, maybe add some amenities, add some additional RV sites. And so, in one sense, it almost feels like kind of cheating a little bit relative to what Wes did. It's funny with Wes, our actual our general managers at our Red Rock Park just outside of Yellowstone, they were telling me earlier this week they actually stayed at his park. They're like, "Oh, you got to see this park." So not having the ability to build from scratch, I think certainly means that you can't do everything the way that you'd want to do it. But frankly, it's probably a good thing that we didn't start out building from scratch, because we would have made a lot of costly mistakes. So we do have the opportunity to do a greenfield in the DFW area. It's been something we've been exploring. That's a market where I live, and I feel comfortable potentially doing that, or I guess as comfortable as I'm going to get. We've got some smart people surrounding us that are going to, hopefully make that, possible. That's not really going to be me, but it's been an interesting ride for sure. So we've been fortunate with what we've got with the existing campgrounds, and had an opportunity to expand those. But yeah, I'd like to hear from Wes on this.
Yeah. And I'm going to give it to Wes. So you built from the ground up. You were thrown into it because you were afraid somebody would do something else. That was a great story. So talk about what that was like.
Well, it was these projects. they seem so easy on an Excel spreadsheet. And then when you're standing there going, I'm going to put some concrete pads down, I'm going to put a little building here for a welcome center, and bing, bang, bop, call it a day. And that was, of course, not the case. I love what you said before. These things always will cost a lot more money than you ever think they will, especially if you're building it from the ground up. But what saved us, I think what our secret sauce was, is because we did not come from hospitality and because we had no idea about the RV world, we approached it that way. And so we started out gathering as much information as we could. We were there was some luck involved. We were in the process of offloading our old multifamily portfolios, and we were repositioning as a company. And so we had some staff that we were able to do focus groups with. I took a lot of RVers, all kinds of different types of RVers, out to dinner and just got them to talk. And we were recording all the conversations, jotting down all the notes. And we kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together that in our area, LJ, and this particular site was screaming a destination RV resort. And from there, because we wanted to go more premium, because our views were phenomenal, we originally started out more towards the deeded lot concept. And that was going to be our plan. But the more focus groups we were running, the more we started learning about the RV industry, and the more we start looking at our site, we decided to swap back and decided that our mission was going to be a premier destination RV resort built to the specs of what you'd see at a deeded lot site. But we wanted that to be full rental and open to all the different types of RVs that were out there. But the construction, there were parts of it that were absolutely grueling. I mean, there is a spaghetti of sewer and water and power and fiber internet running through a rocky, massive limestone / blue granite site. We had to blast our way through getting our infrastructure in. But having your definition set from the beginning is key. Otherwise, when you get to the spot when you're going to spend about $300,000 on just trees, and you're going, how is this going to return value on Excel? And it's a hard thing to quantify, but you're trying to get towards the destination RV site. You're going to stay committed until the end to make sure all those finer details are as perfect as they can be for the guest experience. We ended up doing a lot of the construction aspects ourselves. We had subs, but for instance, power. When it came to run power, this was during COVID, so there was sand shortages. Don't know how we got to that spot, but that existed for a minute. So as before the concrete was trickling in to run our power, we had a contractor that was slow to show up because he lost half his labor force. And on a project this scale, if you sit for a month to 2 months, that can be financially detrimental. So what do? You sign a waiver with the power company and you go, all right, if I zap myself, I'm liable for it, and you're free of charge. And you get in there and you run your power.
I can't even imagine.
Oh yes, I've got 4 iPhones and several pairs of shoes buried underneath some of these pads in our history of building this place.
Wow.
And then being able to make field changes on these things is incredibly, incredibly important. When you're standing there and you realize that your RV pad needs to be tilted a few more degrees to the left so that a 45-foot fifth wheel can be able to back up without having to be at an angle is key. So when you're building these things, being able to make those quick field changes is incredibly, incredibly important, which means you've got to have a really good relationship with the city or municipality you're working with. And that from what I can see, that can also be a hurdle, because there's still a lot of eyebrows that raise when you say, I'm building an RV park.
Right, which would seem to me to make it just a little bit easier if they already exist. So you take some of that out of there. So much here. And again, I've looked at pictures of your park. I plan on coming down there and visiting. It is amazing looking and starting from scratch. So obviously we have 2 different thoughts here on existing and non-existing. We could do pros and cons of both. And we're going to talk about how you guys feel about it after the fact. But Sonya and Maurice, you kind of fell into it. It was there, it was existing. Tell us how that beginning went. What were some of the challenges and some of the things that maybe were easier because it did already exist for a long time?
It did. And it was kind of developed in pieces. My parents got the property in the 50s. And at that time, it was pretty much just a boat livery. People would come fishing, and they had like a little grove where they would do clam bakes and things like that. And somebody brought along a tent, and the rest became history. But the park was kind of developed in little pieces. So I remember my dad saying, he didn't really know much about developing an RV park. What kind of resources were there for them in the 50s? Not really a lot. You just kind of did what you thought you needed to do. So he went to a nearby park and looked at how they had set things up. And so he kind of went by that. But in those days, and primarily, I think a lot of the park was developed, as far as the number of sites were developed like in the 60s and 70s. And RVs back then were, 25 feet. So we had, two or three sites that actually had 15 amp breakers.
Wow.
Which was hard to believe. And it was really, the beginning part of it was really chaotic and hectic because it wasn't something we planned on doing. It was more of an emotional decision because it was where I grew up and I didn't want to see it go away. And so we just kind of hacked away at things piece by piece. And eventually we saw the value in joining our state organization and in joining our national association. There wasn't a whole lot of time for us back in those days because we both worked full-time positions in addition to doing this. So he would take contract work and go, wherever in the country. And I had a full-time job in DC metro area. And so I would commute back and forth between the two places. So a lot of it was, understanding what we needed to be doing, talking with people from the regulation side of things, getting to know, who we needed to know, finding out, what it was going to take to do what we needed to do. And we didn't have the background that some of the folks coming into the industry have now. So it was really a pretty big challenge for us, just the management part of it. And a lot of our struggle was we had to do a lot of the work ourselves or hire people. And so you're so busy sometimes in the weeds that you can't be where you need to be managing it properly.
Right.
So we've certainly made our share of mistakes. And I totally understand when someone was saying, you put an RV pad in and then you're like, oh, it just needs to be turned a little bit or, whatever it is. And it seems like, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal, but it turns out to be a big deal.
Right.
Well, it was really interesting how we kind of adjusted to what the situation was. We knew nothing about branding a company or finding employees or anything else. So we found it wasn't just important to get the right employees and people that you could trust to do what needed to be done and were capable of doing what needed to be done, but it was also really important. We discovered pretty quickly to make sure that the people that you're bringing in are also the type of people you want in your backyard. There's actually some screening that's done. We meet everybody. We make sure that they want to be here, that this is where they want to be, because the park kind of branded itself. After years, we wanted a quiet place. We wanted a safe place. We wanted a beautiful place. and we've aimed for all of those particular ideals, and it's come together pretty well. Did you want to say something?
Well, I think because he's talking about the camper side of things. I think you, as new owners, I think one of the things that, and you certainly want to look at other parks and what other parks are doing. Because I know in the beginning we looked at jumping pads and, we could do this and we could do that. But I think for us, because we're considered the mom and pops of the camping industry, I think you have to look inside, because I tell people all the time, do your homework. If you're shopping for a seasonal site, every campground is as different as its owner. We all have different needs. We all have different visions. It became pretty evident to us early on. We have a beautiful piece of property, and it literally, if you let it, will sell itself. So we've done our best to enhance what's already here. We were fortunate enough to just have a beautiful place for people to come. And I think when COVID happened and you had this huge boom, then people really started to zero in on quiet and relaxation and, just quality of life. I will be the first to tell you, that's one of my focuses right now, is trying to establish a healthy quality of life while you're doing something like this, because I think everyone who's spoken has talked about how you have to be ready to pretty much do anything, whether it's pumping sewer or cleaning a restroom, or, you may not be able to lay electric, but you'd better have some people lined up that you can rely on. So,
And you're bringing up a lot of great points, and I want to go down those various roads. So let me just circle back a little bit. You talked about, first of all, which I think is a great tip for anybody, looking inside and deciding what kind of park you want. I think all of you on this call have very different ideals, different types of parks. What you're trying to promote or do within those parks are different. And I think that's great. I think going out and trying to just be like everybody else doesn't work. Working with RV Life, I work with campground owners, and hearing campground owners say, people are asking about a pool. They have a park wherever it happens to be. You can't be all things to all people. And while that sounds pretty obvious, I talk to campground owners sometimes that are like, well, this is what somebody asked for. And so I'd like what you said about looking inside. What is it you want? What is it you're looking to build? What type of campground do you want? Because there are so many different campgrounds. People ask me a lot as I've traveled across the country, what's your favorite state? What's your favorite campground? And for me, it depends on what I'm doing at the time. There are times I want to be in a campground where it is quiet. I've been in campgrounds in the Poconos. I want quiet. I want rest. I want, serene. I don't care about the activities. And then there are times I was in Texas, in Dallas, at your campground, Chase. And my favorite thing was every day. I sat literally in the front seat of my RV. We had a Class A. Sat in the front seat of my RV because it overlooked, it's a pond, right, Chase? In Dallas, Northeast. I call things ponds, rivers, whatever word.
Yes.
It's actually a huge pond. The sun would set every night, and that's where you would find me. And to me, that is beautiful. It is peaceful. I loved it there. So there are not only are there different things for different people, but I look for different things in campgrounds, depending on what I'm looking to do. So great. I want to continue on this. I do want to first, though, mention Blue Compass RV. So for people out there that are looking to go camping at some of these amazing campgrounds that we've talked about, Blue Compass RV is incredible for sales and service because they have over 100 locations coast to coast. They have more than 15,000 new and used RVs and over 1,000 service bays with more certified RV technician than any other dealer, Blue Compass RV is there for you every step of the way. And you can visit their local Blue Compass dealership or go to bluecompassrv.com. Okay, let's get back into this. Amie, you've heard a lot of what people are saying about the way they started. They've shared some of their issues along the way, and you're there. Like, that's what your company does, is help people through these things. When these guys are talking about spreadsheets and Excel sheets, I'm out. Like, I have no idea, but it's really important. Obviously, the finance side is important. So chime in. What would you suggest at this point?
Absolutely. I mean, there are certain things we'll look at from the beginning for clients. Are you wanted from a regulatory perspective? We've stopped projects based on local restrictions. Is the environment positive? Are they going to fight you and, incorporate astronomical fees that will prohibit you from developing? We've encountered situations like that. The land itself, we've had projects where water was simply not available to support. Does the infrastructure underground support the development or the expansion? Just the costly things that you'll have to do to even begin building. And from the market perspective, is the area oversaturated? Are you driving through competition and seeing, no one in the RV sites? That's a red flag. You want to find out why and, what's going on. So just a lot of initial research and looking what that local market needs and wants is also important to consider. Are you in the middle of a workforce area? They probably don't want a luxury resort. They need affordable housing, things like that. Just deciding, what the area needs, the budget, that you have to work with, taking a realistic look at what you're able to provide is a great starting place.
Great. And there is so much here. And I'm just going to recommend that anybody thinking about a campground, expanding, getting into it, buying, like just those initial things, they should reach out, if not to you, to somebody, because there's so many things. And somebody else said it, you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot here and a lot of money involved. Let's talk about the upside of it. You guys, Wes, you've been doing this for 3 years. Chase, for how many years when you first started?
About 6.
6 years. And Sonya and Maurice, 19 years. And you've already alluded to some of the things like quality of life. And while you have to be ready to do it all, the good in it. So let's talk about the upside of it. What is your favorite parts of this? Wes, let's start with you. What's the upside? What's the good? You obviously love it. Whenever I see you at events. I saw you in Tampa. I've seen you in Hershey. I'll see you again in Hershey in September. You're always happy and excited. And so you obviously love what you're doing. Talk about the beauty of it.
Yeah, we're much more hands-on in this field than we ever were, and a lot of the other fields we came from. Love our staff. You're able to cultivate a pretty cool team environment because all day long you're as our marketing guy will say, well, all of us are officers of first impressions, and we're in the business of first impressions, even when they run into the site. And so being able to just sit back and watch people walk around and ooh and awe at the landscape or the sites, or you see them sitting around the fire pits, or we just opened our restaurant here on site a week ago. So I was off in the corner watching people go up and order and eat. And we've been building this stinking building for a year now. It's good to see people using it. And so that's probably one of the biggest payoffs, we get from it is watching the guest enjoy the experience. And that makes all the blood, sweat, and tears and the moments on Tuesday mornings going, why did we ever do this? Worth it.
Right, exactly. And for Maurice and Sonya, what is the biggest joy? 19 years. I'm still trying to, I don't know that I've done, well, I taught for almost 20, so I do know of something I've done for a long period of time. That's a long time. So what is your favorite part? What brings you joy in doing this?
For me, by October, I'm a nub. And I think, oh my gosh, we made it through another year. And, you kind of have this decompression phase after you close. But by spring, I think I'm not going to, look forward to it. But by spring, I start getting excited. And it's an incredible amount of work, but I still enjoy doing it. And it brings back for me memories of childhood when my parents had it. And I love it. And I think Maurice gets the same joy because he loves to go out and talk to the RVers that are going out. The way that our park is set up with mostly seasonal and maybe like 15% transient is perfect because we can go out and we can interact with the overnighters that come through, ask them how their stay was. And for me, when someone comes and says, it's just so beautiful and we've really enjoyed our stay and thank you so much for doing what you do. That I know it sounds corny, but that will fill me.
Not at all. Not at all. And I hear that and I get that. I can totally understand that. And I love connecting when I go into a campground with the owner, the manager, those kind of people. And you could see the excitement and you could see that they're doing it because that person coming into that campground, it truly brings them joy. Now, Chase, I'm going to ask you, you and I met a couple of years ago. I came down to Dallas Northeast, which is just northeast of Dallas. Incredible area because the campground is in a spot that is quiet, but 20 minutes and I have all this excitement I could get to. You and I met at the campground. And again, this is clearly something you're passionate about. It's something that brings you joy. And I want you to talk about that a little bit, why you do what you're doing.
I mean, I would just echo, what everybody else has said. It really is the customer and the fulfillment of people that are enjoying nature and being outside. And I just was at our Yellowstone property yesterday and it was 7:00 in the morning and I was watching a guy take photos of a moose across the street, and just to see people interact with nature like that, that's awesome. And I think, it's tangible, right? Like my kids, when we go in and we upgraded the playground equipment at our park in Omaha, and they say, when do we get to go to Omaha and, check out the new playground? It's just very different than what I was doing in the past, which is a good thing. It's a lot of fun. I think customers being happy is very rewarding and fulfilling.
Right. Absolutely. And Yellowstone is Red Rock RV Park. And that's where the most incredible tiny home, because of that view, right? I did a lot of research. I got it right. That's where the tiny homes are.
That's where the tiny home is.
I want to make sure. I looked at all of these different places. The view is spectacular. So that is on my bucket list of places to go and be in that tiny home that has tons of windows and just look out onto the beauty that's out there. So much here. And I am so grateful for all of you to be here. I'm trying to keep this down to like a reasonable amount of time, but there's so much to cover. Let's talk a little bit about, just quickly, if each person could touch on that day-to-day type of, because now you've started your campground or you've built it from scratch, you bought a campground, but now you have to do the day-to-day type stuff. And some of you are on site, and for you, Chase, you have a number of different campgrounds. Now, let's go back, because I know, Chase, for you hired Elizabeth. I have had conversation with her. I think she's your marketing director. I'm not sure specific title. When I talked to her, her vision, which is from you guys, the vision of the company, to make a park that is welcoming, that people feel like they're part of the family. the way she talked about it just was awe-inspiring. It was incredible because while you have 6 parks and you're looking to expand, you want each park to be that place that the kids want to go. I'm going to let you speak on that. You talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth, we're fortunate to have her because she's a full-time RVer, and so she lives the life, and she's provided great perspective. I mean, I think the hardest thing, for what we're trying to do is keep that mom and pop feel as you grow. And this is back to kind of the staffing. I used to think no one really cared unless you're the owner, but I think you actually can find some fantastic people that align with you and are motivated by different things, but ultimately the center focus is a happy customer. And I think that's just really important. And there's a lot of basic blocking and tackling. I mean, there's nothing that our staff does that I wouldn't do personally. I mean, if you call our Dallas campground after hours, like, you're going to get forwarded to my phone. It's just the way we've always done it. We probably shouldn't do that, but that's just the way we do it. Right. And, I think just being engaged with the staff, there's no issue that is too small to not involve myself and Jim in. And so we think that permeates throughout all the campgrounds. And I think we're very cognizant of the fact that, like, as we get bigger, the risk is that we can't have this personal touch, and we're trying to, keep that intact. So it's a big focus for us.
Okay. And Wes, I'm going to ask you the same thing. And now, honestly, I don't remember what the exact question was, but this idea of day to day and the idea of keeping that vibe of the campground and just knowing you and having hung out with you the times that I have, how do you create that? Let's talk about that. How do you create that at your campground?
Environment is key. We pour a lot into our staff. We have a department type structure because we're a full destination resort and we deal with mostly transients. We've got a large amount of people moving in and out almost daily. So you've got that cruise ship mentality. You've got to make sure the activities and events are firing on all cylinders. An experience for somebody on a Saturday is just as important to nail that on a Monday morning for those guests that are there as well. And we try to do some fun stuff too. This last Saturday, I was dressed as a French pastry chef in the kitchen. I was the chef's sous chef for a minute. Wasn't planning on that. Never been in a kitchen, never been a sous chef before. Okay. I made a pretty terrible one, but I was able to help him. I did sling hot grease on him. And he didn't like that. But
wow.
We fed like 110 people. So just like Chase was saying, you roll up your sleeves and you get in there. There's that servant type leadership. I'm running around picking up trash. There's no tasks that is beneath anybody in hospitality. And then making sure the guests go back and have that best experience that they can. There's obviously some difficulties. We live in a tense society, and you can get some rude customers. And when you're dealing with RVers, because 99.9% of them are just awesome people, that ripple effect of one bad experience can be larger than you could ever find in other industry and fields. And so you take it seriously. You've got to trust some of your frontline people to embrace the culture that you've set up. But setting that culture it's an active involvement. It's something that's really hard to just kind of wind the clock and then let it go back. Chase, I was having the same conflicts that you are. We're in the expansion phase. We're looking at one or two other locations, and that terrifies me sometimes because I know I can't be there as much as what I've been able to do here. And that makes me wonder, how will that be able to spill over to keep that quality control? And it's always a mix, the bigger you get, between dancing with a little bit of bureaucracy to make sure that standards are met each time so that each experience is as best as it can be, but also still trying to have that personal touch to add that heartbeat in whatever you're doing to make sure that experience is the best it can be.
when it comes, now you've started the campground, whether it's from scratch or it's an already existing campground, you've got to get it out to people. So Amie, can you speak a little bit on people making sure they let people know? And I'm going to talk a little bit about it because, like I said, I go to campground owners events. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Absolutely. We always say once construction begins, you want to start promoting because it's new and no one knows you and no one knows you're there. A couple of things I always say is really collaborate with your construction team. Make sure that, your opening date is solid and that what you're promoting out there, as a start date is there and real. You want a really beautiful, optimized website, social media, you want Facebook and Google ads, and you really just want to put yourself out there, also in the industry, all of the organizations and memberships and any trade shows that you're able to attend, before you're even built is a huge deal. And especially in certain markets like snowbirds, they tend to plan a year in advance. So you want to catch them before they make those reservations, but it all plays a huge part and pays off really, really well once you're open.
And we spoke a little bit in the beginning about RV Life Campground Reviews. It is a site for those people who don't know. As an RVer, I have been on their site and looked at their reviews. And because they were authentic reviews, that's the place that I went to find out about campgrounds. And then they have a featured park program where that gives you, as a campground owner, more visibility to be able to get your brand out there. So I have to put a plug out there for them. I know, Wes, you are part of it, and Chase, your campgrounds are on there as well. And when I say a campground is a featured park, it is because other RVers have said they are. Sonya and Maurice, your campground is also a featured park. RVers go in, they love the campground, they give a review, and I think other people's reviews is the best form of advertisement, of hands down.
It is.
So, yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. I want now to ask each of you where people could reach out to you and what is next for you guys. If you're talking about expanding, you're talking about other campgrounds. I know, Chase, for you have openings of some of these campgrounds I hope to be attending. So I want to hear what's next. Where can people reach out to you? And we still have more to cover here because I have another question, putting you guys on the spot in just a few minutes. Sonya and Maurice, why don't we start with you? Where can people reach you, the campground website, and what's next? So you guys, let me ask this in a different way. You're 19 years. We haven't talked about this yet. Is there a thought of this, like you guys leaving? And I don't know this, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. Is there a thought of selling? Is there a next generation that's going to come in and take over?
So we have had this conversation probably more recently, more frequently, because of the age that we're at. I always tell people, like, when they say, "Oh, how are you?" Old and tired. But there is an element to this that, it's very physical work. I mean, we both are out there with chainsaws, and my excitement comes when I go to the steel store.
Yeah.
But certainly, we're not going to live forever. I realize that. And,
We don't have anyone to pass it down to.
No, none of our children are going to, and that's actually common for children growing up in this, a lot. And you want them, even if they do grow up in this, you want them to go out and explore what it is they need to explore before they would make a commitment like this anyway. But for us at this point, and more so for me, because it's been in my family so many years, we have entertained selling, but I want to keep this as long as I can, given how long it's been in my family. So our thought is we're going to eventually move to having some other managers in place. I've been fortunate enough to have the same front desk manager for 9 years, I think now. I have some really good people at my front desk. But I think there's going to come a time where, we don't want to be here every day doing what we're doing right now. We want to have the ability to have some downtime during the summer. And we actually bought an Airstream about
3 years ago.
3 years ago. And I think we've had it out all of 3 times.
3 times.
So
Very brief.
And they were very brief. So our goal is to try to, as I said before, is to have a quality of life. And if we're going to keep this, we have to find a way to have that quality of life if we're going to keep going. So I don't know what the solution is or what it's going to look like right now, but I would really like to keep it. So,
well, let's put Amie on the spot here. And just to let people know, it's Clayton Park RV Escapes.com is how they can reach you.
.net. Yes.
.net. Okay.
Yeah.
You are also on campgrounds.rvlife.com.
Yep.
You guys are there. Amie, are there other options that people might not be thinking?
Absolutely. Hiring a manager is a great option that keeps you involved as much or as little as you want to be. There's management companies out there that, can manage it for you. And then if and when you're ready to sell, there's options for you, as well. And I think all of us here would be glad to help you, just helping you in that situation, making connections. And sounds like finding the right buyers would be really important for you as well.
Is there ever an option, and we are going just in all kinds of directions, where somebody comes in and buys, but the owners still want to stay involved? Is that, I guess anything's possible. You can work anything out with anybody, right? Would that be something? I'm going to ask you, Chase. I know you bought a number of places. Is that ever a consideration when you go in and buy a campground? I know you bought 6 now.
It's a great question, Patty. So our Santa Fe property, the previous owner actually stayed on to manage the property for us, which has been great. We did a seller financing transaction with them. So, while they sold the property, they're still collecting a monthly payment from us, and they're actively managing it. And then our property, our most recent acquisition in Cheyenne, Wyoming, it's called AB. The daughter of the previous owners have actually stayed on to manage that property, and same thing, doing a seller financing transaction. So we're big on continuity. We obviously want to keep people that are want to be there, and B, are fun and enjoyable to work with. So there's definitely creative ways to do that, and we've had some good success with that so far.
Okay. So where can people reach out to you, and what is next for you?
Our website is openroadresorts.com. We've got a variety of things going on at all the properties. So we've got, we're just opened up an expansion at our Omaha KOA property. We are doubling the size of our Santa Fe KOA property, which will hopefully be open later this fall. We've got some new premium sites that we're introducing at our other property in the Dallas area. It's called Good Shepherd RV Park. And then, knock on wood, we'll have another acquisition in the New Orleans area in the next couple of weeks that we'll be closing on. So that's kind of next up for us.
So now I have to change my podcast script yet again, but that's great. That's awesome.
I shouldn't have said anything because I just probably jinxed it. So, you can edit that part out.
Okay. I will let Jacob edit that out if you want. By the time this comes, this is going to come out next week. So something happens in between. Okay. Well, I'll get back to you on that. Thank you. Wes, you talked about expanding Talona Ridge, and you said something about other campgrounds. So tell us how to get to you, first of all, and what's coming for you.
Yeah. So Talona Ridge, RVresort.com, or Talona Ridge, even if you just spell it, it'll get you there somehow, some way. Our marketing team's awesome like that. Yeah, no, Talona Ridge is about to go from a 40-acre campground to a 290-acre resort. So we've got quite a lot of expansions already in place. We've got 11.5 miles of mountain bike and hiking trails being put in as we speak. And we just got our restaurant up and going. And so I'm getting some tiny houses for you to come and hang out with us. So I'm excited for that.
There you go. Another tiny house.
Yep. And then we're in talks with one or two other locations to do like a smaller version of Talona that would also almost be more like an enclave type situation where you've got it would only be like 60 to 70 sites, but it can be run by our team here and have a smaller footprint to be able to function, because it would be hard to get a labor force in some of these. Is the more beautiful the landscape, the less labor force, the less infrastructure, the less water and sewer and power and all the stuff you need becomes. and then you guys are going to the steel store and chopping down trees.
That's
right. Yeah. So that's our plan.
Great. I know that we have covered a lot of things here, and I am sure there's a ton more that needs to be covered. Amie, do you have any last thoughts for people on the podcast that are thinking, I want to own a campground, I want to start a campground? Any last thoughts there? And how can people reach you?
I'll just say it is a wonderful industry to be a part of. I've been in it long enough to see advancements in technology and in guest service. People say, what do you do? We build vacations. So it's, I would say go for it, and it's just a joy to be a part of and wonderful people to be surrounded by. I love it. And I would absolutely recommend it to anyone interested. Our website is mcg-hospitality.com. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And for my listeners, and again, we're not done. I'm going to put all of the links in the show notes so nobody has to remember anything. I am now going to ask each of you one last question. I'm going to give you a minute to think about it after I ask, and then talk about one of my sponsors. So it is time for the question of the week, which is brought to you by Cool RV. And I'm going to ask each of you, what is on your bucket list? So whether that's a person, a place, an experience you want to have, everybody is now thinking. Jacob will need video of that. Everybody just went into thinking mode. And this is why I'm going to give you just a minute to think about that. Because I'm outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we have already had really hot, humid days. Now, I am in a house right now, so when it gets hot and humid, I just turn the air conditioner on. But I certainly remember those days I was in an RV in the middle of the summer in Las Vegas. Yes, and there were days it went to 120. My air conditioners worked okay, but there is Cool RV, KOOL-RV, and it is a game changer when it comes to RV air conditioners. This unit, it's small, it's only $89, and it will give you cooler air, more airflow, and make it so your air conditioners are quieter. We're getting into summer, people. You need to check out Cool RV. Go to coolrv.com today. All right. Who wants to start? I'll let you raise your hand if you are ready with your bucket list.
I think for me, if we can achieve a balance of, because this park is part of my identity. There's and I'm trying to think of which cosmetic company, and there are other examples where it's been in the family, and then the family sells it, and then they buy it back because they realize how much a part of it that company is, or how much they are a part of that company. Mm-hmm. So for me, my bucket list would be, we find a way to keep this going and travel at the same time. I don't care if it's just, 2 or 3 nights away, whatever it is.
Or New Zealand.
Okay, that's more than 2 or 3 nights.
We did have somebody stay with us from Glass Island in New Zealand, and they said, come anytime. And we're like, how many hours flight? So I think, I don't know what yours would be, but.
Oh, I think we're right in the same vein, dear. I think that's That all sounds good. And I think traveling is great. I mean, I've been all over the country. I've lived all over the country, Alaska and Hawaii. And this meets all of my needs as far as that goes. But I still have a lust to wander. I want to see different things. I want to go and see my family on the West Coast. I want to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And that's kind of where we haven't been in 19 years.
Okay. And that's good. And a lot of times I'll ask what's on somebody's bucket list and they'll give me a specific place or an experience. I think that's a great goal that you want to go to New Zealand, which is going to be more than a 3 or 4 day trip. You're going to need a lot longer. But, maybe with conversations with people on the call, you can create other options. Maybe my listeners have some thoughts for you. Okay. So Amie, what's on your bucket list?
So I've got two. My first would be a helicopter tour over Glacier Lake. And then the second is Hawaii, because when I go, I probably won't come back. So it'll be the last thing I do.
There you go. That's good. That is a great one. How about you, Chase?
I was going to say, is the bucket list with an RV or without an RV?
Whatever you want it to be.
If it's without an RV, I'm going to say Sonya and Maurice, the New Zealand thing. That's always been a bucket list for me.
See that?
with an RV, I'm from the Phoenix area originally. I love the desert, but I love the ocean. I'd love to take, maybe a Class B or something down to Baja California. Not with kids. My kids are young, not now. We're maybe
Or you just get some babysitters.
That's right. Exactly.
There you go. Baja California. How about you, Wes?
Man, mine's silly. I want to have an RV and actually go on an RV trip. We're in the RV industry, and I was in an RV for 3 nights. I borrowed one from a friend. I was in my Talona shirt, and I shot raw sewage all over my feet and into my boat shoes. And I fled the park. I'm that guy. I want to go back to that park in a Class A, something nice with a fancier Talona shirt. I want to tip them big time for the chaos I caused years ago, and I want to do it right. So that's my bucket list. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to hook you up with Blue Compass RV, an incredible company to go check out RVs. Wow. It's now time for the campground of the week, and it is brought to you by RV Life. This week's featured campground is Red Rock RV Park in Island Park, Idaho. And if you don't have an RV, it is totally okay, because you can stay in their tiny home, which is my plan. That is on my bucket list now, to stay in that tiny home. People have to go check out the pictures. I just can't even describe them. It is 22 miles from the west side of Yellowstone Park, which is also really important, because in the over 3 years that I RV, now when Dan, my husband, said, let's go RVing, I said, what are we going to do? And he said, we'll go to every national park in the country, which even at the time I was like, yeah, I want to go to some. I don't know that that's my goal. But in over 3 years, we went to 0 national parks. So Yellowstone is definitely on my list of places to go. They have full hookups, tent sites, and like I said, you can rent a tiny home. They have a 9.4 rating on the RV Life campground site with 222 reviews. So you could see what other RVers are saying about this park by going to campgrounds.rvlife.com. And then you could see all these amazing pictures I'm talking about, all the amenities this park has to offer. And the nice thing is, once you are on the campground site, the campgrounds.rvlife.com site, you could hit the book now button. You don't have to go anywhere else. You could just book your stay, because once you see these pictures, you're going to want to book that stay. RV Life Campgrounds, as I said, is part of the RV Life suite of products. It's the most comprehensive source for RV parks, campgrounds, resorts, city, state, national parks. Go to RV Life, campgrounds.rvlife.com to check it all out. Thank you so much for being so accommodating and being on and sharing so much great information. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Patty.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
You
Thank
are
you.
welcome. Thank you to my listeners. Remember, life's a journey. Live each day to the fullest without regrets. I'm Patti Hunt, and you have been listening to the RV Life Podcast.